Hello. All right. Today we are going to be talking about how to read a franchise disclosure document. I'll be doing this weekly, right? So you can get a pretty good idea of how to read one and kind of what's in them. I'm going to focus more on the financial and some of the data-driven ones, the quantitative items. You want to go through the whole thing, obviously, and read it. You can use my app, app.tracerfranchising.com. I call it an app, and really, it's just for your on your desktop. It doesn't work very well on your phone, but it takes you through how to read this step by step, all items of this. And then, of course, before you purchase the franchise, you want to have a franchise specific attorney review the entire document as well as the contract called the franchise agreement, um, because you always want a legal expert to review these, right? But this is a good way for you to be familiar with it and to get a good idea of kind of what's in it and what you should be thinking. Okay, so I'm going to go through this. And the first thing to note, let's go down to, you can see this is the 2025 FDD for 1 hour heating and air. Great franchise, part of a platform of home service franchises that have been around for a while, and they all do really well. So that's nice. You have a big team behind you. Table of contents, right? You can go through, and what we're going to look at today is the initial fees, so item 5, other fees, item 6, item 7, the estimated initial investment. We're going to look at item 12, the territory. Item 19, the financial performance representations, where we'll spend the bulk of the time. And item 20, outlets and franchisee information, because that's super important. Okay, so let's go down. Let's start with item 5. Okay, so item 5, the franchise fee. You can see it is $43,000 plus 43 cents for each person above 100,000 in the franchise territory. So this tells us a couple things. One, the franchise fee, the average franchise fee is between $40,000 and $60,000. So this is on the lower end. Obviously, a territory is going to be 100,000 people in population. And then if you want to go over, they probably do it by zip code. So you're going to get zip codes that probably add up to like 102,000. So they're going to charge you 2,000 times 43 cents plus the $43,000 for that, right? Okay. You can also see that if you have an HVAC business that you want under the 1 hour heating and air brand, because of all the things that come with the franchise, it's only $5,000, right? Because they know that you know what you're doing. Okay, so that's interesting. And then you get into kind of the required payments, right? Addition, right? Potential forgiveness, the franchise. Oh, sorry, this is still the conversion package. Existing franchisee discount. Okay, so you get 30% off your second and subsequent territory. That's great. They have a military discount. If you're active personnel in the American or Canadian Armed Forces, will reduce the franchise fee by 30%. Okay, nice. As well as veterans. Okay, great. They have first responder discount. Did I miss one? They have a diversity discount. They have a deadline extension fee, right? So these deadlines are usually pretty generous. And the only reason you would ever hit a deadline is because you're just not doing anything, right? So especially with these mobile businesses where you don't have to wait forever to find the right piece of property. This is just there to keep you to make sure that you don't just buy the franchise and then don't do anything. Pre-opening training fees. There's no training fee for a key person. So this is your manager and yourself. However, if you request and you agree to accept extra trainees, so they could charge you extra, right? If you take someone to the owner's training, it looks like there's up to 2 people. But if you want more, they're going to charge you for it, right? Uniformity of fees. Okay, so for mergers or other transactions, they may give discounts, as well as for existing franchisees or franchisees of our affiliates. So maybe, oh, so you have their affiliates, right? Because I said they were a platform. So maybe they also own Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. Maybe if he wants to own a couple territories of 1 Hour Heating and Air, they'll give him a discount. Maybe it's a franchisee who's struggling and they're going to waive the franchise fee if a franchisee who's doing well just takes it over, right? So they have the ability to do that if they want to. Okay, so that's item 5 is those initial fees and discounts. Item 6 are other fees. So the royalty is 6%, right? So it's right there. The brand fund is usually between 1 and 3%. This goes to marketing nationwide. Everybody pays into this and everybody benefits from it. And so it seems to be a sliding scale down, 1.5% for the first 5 million, 1.25, 5 to 10, 1%, 10 to 15. Interesting. Okay. And this looks like you'd have to ask if this is per franchisee or per territory, right? Because one territory is probably not going to do 20 million, but one franchisee with multiple territories could, right? So you'd need to know kind of the answer to that. Local marketing, we recommend but not require. So, okay, hey, you should budget between 8 and 12%. I would budget on the high end for my projections, okay? Grand opening, okay, so here's 18 grand towards grand opening. Infringement, don't, right? Basically, this is just don't go into other people's territories, right? Otherwise, they can fine you. Key accounts, so if they have national accounts, they could potentially charge a fee. Doesn't look like they're doing it right now. Technology fee, $100 a month. 2 brand email addresses. Other software and portals. Okay, that's not bad. Additional opening support. So if you need more support, more training, right? They could charge you for it. They have an annual conference. It's pretty standard. Non-attendance fee. They want you to attend the conference. If you're sick, they could waive it. My wife is pregnant. She didn't give birth like within a few weeks of our conference, so they've waived this for us. Franchisors usually aren't unfair, right? But if you just decide you want to go, they'll charge this as an incentive for you to go. Call center, currently $2.05 per call and $29 per call. That results in a booked customer. Okay, it's not bad. That's so that you don't have to answer those calls yourself. Renewal fee, that's cheap, that's good, $5,000. Transfer fee, $10,000. And then they have, if they're the broker, they get an additional $5,000 or 3% of the total purchase price. Okay, interesting. So you can go through the rest of these, right? These are just step in if they have to manage it. If you don't pay them on time. The rest of these are just basically if something happens and you're not following the franchise, you're not running the franchise. Okay. Liquidated damages. This is a big deal. Liquidated damages are payments if you close down, right? So typically it is the minimum royalty fees times the number of years left in your agreement. So this is 2 years of royalty fees calculated as your average royalties during the payment period in the year preceding. Multiply the number of payment periods occurring in a 2-year period or $100,000. Okay, so it's the greater of these two. So my guess is if you're closing down, you're probably not making that much money the last year, so you're looking at $100,000 in liquidated damages. To get a good franchise attorney, I don't know about these guys. Maybe they'll negotiate this to be a lower number, right? If you're going out of business, you probably don't have $100,000 sitting around, right? This is just to prevent you from giving up, essentially, and be like, this is too hard, I'm not going to do it. But at the same time, this is a big deal if you went out of business, right? And you tried your best. So this might be something you want to negotiate. Okay. These are all the notes. You can go through these. Item 7. This is a conversion franchise. I'm not going to go through that. Most people aren't doing that. Okay, startup franchise, right? This is what most people are doing. Franchise fee is $43,000. Remember, if it's over $100,000, it's 43 cents per person. Grand open marketing. So 6,000, which is interesting because above it's at 8,000, right? So I definitely would want to ask about, or excuse me, it's at 18,000. I'm pretty sure. So you definitely want to ask about that, right? You see what I'm. Oops, going the wrong way. So let's double check. Okay. Grand opening, 18,000. So it's an average of $6,000 a month. Okay, so that's what they're talking about. So this is, yeah, so this is a little misleading. This is $6,000 a month. Okay, so this should be $18,000. Rent or lease or real estate. This is probably for 3 months. It's usually how they do it. You're going to want to look at your area, right? Because if you live in Augusta, Georgia, or you live in Los Angeles, California, these numbers are going to be significantly different, right? So this needs to be something that you verify yourself. Leasehold improvements, same thing. Computer technology systems and software. We'll look at number 6, but this is probably the same for everybody. Office equipment and furniture, probably not that expensive, right? Go to a Goodwill Restore and buy used furniture, and it's not a big deal. Tools and equipment, I'd probably go on the high end. Vehicles, I'd probably go on the high end. Vehicle upfitting, probably go on the high end. Signage, high end. Office signage. Travel expenses, initial vehicle inventory, insurance. You probably want to get a local broker, right? Especially since you have all these vehicles on the road. Where I live in Denver, very, very, very high insurance, right? So this is definitely going to be way higher. I moved here from Little Rock and it was 3 times more expensive, right? So I can't imagine what it would be like commercially. So this needs to be verified locally. Startup supplies, professional fees, and licensing. It's a big deal. Vehicle registration fees, decals for consumers, telephone, personal tools, full-time general manager or operations manager. This is for 3 months, right? Almost always. So that tells me if you don't think you're going to break even in 3 months, you're going to need 100 grand for the first year, right? And then $90,000 in working capital for the first 3 months. Okay, so I mean, some of these I would probably expand. I would want to know, okay, you must own or lease or buy at least 2 vehicles. Yeah, so these are important. Trainings in Phoenix. This is a big one. Your employees must be required to obtain certain licenses or permits. I need to know what licenses and permits those are. What happens if I don't have it? What happens if I don't hire somebody or the person I hired who has it quits, right? Do I just go out of business? Like, that's a big deal to me. Yeah. Okay. So again, definitely want to go through these. But I would also want to know how much of this is insurance. I don't know if it's any, right? How much of this do you guys get paid up front versus you get paid 30 days later because you're invoicing homeowners, because that's going to affect your cash flow. So maybe you actually need more working capital if you grow faster than you think, right? Because growth in a place where you're not getting paid instantly could kill the business. So there's a lot of questions there. And then I would want to go through each of these line by line with a bunch of franchisees who started recently, especially if they start in the same state as me, and say, hey, how much, tools and equipment, how much were vehicles, how much was insurance, did you have to upfit your vehicles or were they fine the way you got them, how much did it cost to wrap your vehicles, has inventory increased, right? There's a lot of inflation, a lot of stuff's metal, and metal prices sometimes can go crazy. Yeah, so I would, 100%, I'd want to validate pretty much the entire each line by line, especially is this an accurate amount of money that I need to pay a full-time general manager, operations manager, to make sure that I have enough cash coming in, right? So the low estimate assumes the principal owner of the franchise business will devote full time to the supervision and management. High estimate assumes it will be owned by a non-owner. Okay, so, and that's the other thing, so that's kind of interesting. So they have the option where you could have a full-time general manager, so you're not in the day-to-day of the business, right? That's what this is. If you are going to be the owner-operator and be the general manager, then you obviously don't have to pay that. Okay, so that's what that is, and it's in there. The notes are in there, so that's interesting. Okay, okay, real quick, let's look at item 12, which is the territory. Okay, protected territory. That's good. We saw there was a fee if somebody goes in your territory, which is good. So it's protected. Yep, 100,000 individuals using zip codes. Okay, yeah, pretty simple there. Okay, item 19. All right, so this is the financial performance. This is what everybody wants to see. But let's go through it and see where you can get hung up. Okay. All right, so there's a bunch of franchisees in the system, but they're only going to have their financial information in here. There's a reasonable basis for the information. Okay, this is just legal stuff. This is historical information for 1 Hour Heating and Air for the 2024 fiscal year and prior years. As of December 31st, 2024, they had 103 franchisees in 411 territories. So the average franchisee has about 4 territories. Table 1 and 2 presents information on 86. So that means, what is that? 417 aren't included for 359 territories that were in operation for the entire 2024 fiscal year. So excluder of 15 franchisees that opened in 2024. Okay, that's fair. You don't want brand new franchisees in here. 7 franchisees that ceased operations. Okay, that's interesting. Well, why did 7 cease? Right, that's almost 10%. None of the franchisees in this group operated for less than 12 months. When they closed, they will include 2 franchisees that did not. Oh, they exclude 2 franchisees that did not report revenue. That is weird because that's how they get paid on royalties. And then the rest looks like some of these added territories as well as had closed down one of their 2 territories. Okay, so maybe they just had territory that they were losing money on. Okay, so the first thing we look at is gross revenue by territory by quartile. So you have the top 25, the 25 to 50, 50 75, bottom 25. 22 franchisees for 37 territories. That's interesting. So their top 25% had less than 2 territories on average. So they're just working the hell out of their territories. Very interesting. Average gross revenue per territory was 3.3 million. Okay. So even though these 21 franchisees with 91 territories, right, that's more than 4 on average, right? So if you multiply this by 2, you're getting 6 million. If you multiply this by 4, you're getting like 5 million. So it seems like really concentrating and doubling down on 1 or 2 territories will make you more than buying 4 territories and being spread thin. That's kind of how I'm seeing this. Very cool. And then look at this: 21 territories for 126, 21 franchisees for 126 territories. That's like 6 per. That's only $1.2 million. 6 times, that's 3.6 million, right? So these guys across 6 territories on average are doing the same as these guys who have an average of like 1.5 territories, right? So it's interesting. Highest gross, right? They have a guy in here doing 6 million. Nice. Lowest gross 1.9, median gross revenue of territories. Okay. And then percent of territories exceeding group average. So the average is close to the median for the top 25. The average is way higher than the median, is what it looks like. For this one, it looks like the average is way lower than the median. Right, so that's interesting. Okay. Let's keep going. Table 2, gross revenue of franchisees by quartile. So now instead of it by territory, we're doing it just purely by franchisee. Number of franchisees in the group. 22 for 175. Oh, interesting. So you have some of these top guys. Okay. What this tells me is probably some of these territories that are doing really well, their owners also own territories in some of these other quartiles, right? So when you add it all together, right, they actually do own a bunch of territories. Okay, so that's interesting. So basically what it says is there's going to be you're going to have a couple territories that are just crushing it, a couple territories that are doing okay. But, if you have enough territories, right, this is like 6, right? 6 times 22. It's more than that. 7, 14, 8. It's like 8 territories, right? These guys have 8 territories. The highest guy's doing $40 million, right? Pretty impressive. I wonder how many territories he has. Second quartile, these guys have like 3. They're doing about $3 million a piece. These guys also have about 3, doing $1.4 million a piece. These guys look like they have about 3 as well, a little bit less. So, I don't want to know, okay, I want to talk to somebody from each of these, probably a couple guys from each of these quartiles, and know what's the difference between, they just obviously have way more territories, but all the rest of these have on average about the same amount. What are they doing different, right? Is it the owner? Is it the territory itself? Is it the geography, right? I don't know. Like maybe people just pay more for HVAC in some parts of the country than others, right? So I don't want to get to the bottom of that. And percent exceeding the group. So this average is higher than the median. The average is lower than the median here. Average is lower than the median. Average is lower than the median, right? So what that tells me is there's a couple guys in all of these that are dragging the averages down. Okay. System-wide sales. That's interesting. So this is when you add the sales across the entire system together, they've actually been decreasing. So that is, they've added franchisees, but they've been decreasing in territory or in overall revenue. That means the franchisees are making less money year over year, right? I definitely want to know why that is. I know private equity has moved into this space heavily, so maybe they just have more competition, right? Because why do they do this and then this? This is something that is troubling that I haven't seen before. So I want to get to the bottom of this for sure. And I want to talk to franchisees and ask them if they saw the same thing, right? You guys see a bump and then a drop, like what's going on here? Okay. So that's item 19. A lot of questions there. The other thing that they don't have is they don't have timeline, right? So we don't know if these top 25 have been around for 10 years or if they've been around for 2 years. So it's something I really want to talk to is I want to talk to franchisees who've been around for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and see what that trajectory looks like so that I could properly model out what my first 3 years look like and make sure I have enough working capital, make sure I know when I'm going to break even, make sure I know how much marketing, right? Because maybe I'm profiting $100,000, but maybe I need to increase my marketing spend the year after by $100,000, in which case I really didn't make any money, right? Because all that money's going back. So I know I need a salary for 2 years, right? So all that stuff, this doesn't tell you any of that. You need to talk to franchisees about that, right? But this just tells you is that you could potentially grow a big business with this, but it doesn't say how much time it's going to take, right? And people have done it before, right? So if, hey, I know I want to do $20 million in revenue. Well, there's some guy doing 40 million, right? So it's probably possible in this system. But you need to talk to the people who are doing $20 million or more and ask them how they got there. What does it take? How long does it take? And do they think they could still do it now that it seems like sales are decreasing year over year? So have I missed the boat for this industry, right? Those are all good questions that you need to ask during validation. Okay, so let's move on to item 20. So this is the outlets and the franchisee information for the last 3 years. Okay, so what we saw, we can see a net positive growth over the last 3 years for franchise-owned businesses. So their system is growing net. It looks like they sold or closed down a couple company-owned units. Not really a big deal. I would just ask them what happened. And then these are transfers. So there's some transfers. Let's see. In 2024, so they had some transfers, definitely. 46, 21, 24. Not necessarily a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with selling. Especially, you don't know, like, was this 30? It was just one guy who owned 30 territories and had a huge exit. I don't know, right? So maybe you could ask about that. Probably not that important. And then this now has the years by state. Outlets at the start, outlets opened, terminated, non-renewed, reacquired by the company, ceased operations for other reasons. Basically, they shut down. And then the net, okay? So I just like to go down. I mean, look at your state, but I like to go down and look at the totals, okay? So in the last couple of years, 341, 16 were added, 352, 52 were added, 385, 37 were added, okay? It's pretty steady pace, it's pretty good. It's not too big where they can't support them, but it shows that there is interest in growing the franchise. Terminations, 3, 4, and 6, 2024. Non-renewals, right? So if this franchise is doing so well, are these guys not renewing? And then ceased operations for other reasons, right? 7 and 2. Was this just one franchisee who owned 2, or was it 2 franchisees, right? So if I add this up, I have 2, 5, 11, and then that is less than, right? So 5% would be 38, would be like 14, right? So it's less than 5%, so that's fine, right? It's kind of normal. Anything less than 5%, I don't really worry about too much. Anything between 5 and 10, I want to get to the bottom of it. Anything over 10 is a deal breaker for me, right? If more than 10% of your franchisees are shutting down, something's wrong with the industry or something's wrong with the franchise. Okay, so that's it, right? So that's the state of company-owned territories. Again, not that big a deal. New franchise outlets. These are just ones that they've sold. And then, okay. The other thing that is not in here. Okay, so usually in item 20, you have the list of all the franchisees and their phone numbers, where you can do your own validation. I wouldn't do this until you've spoken to the franchisor several times and they say that it's okay for you to start talking and doing franchisees. It's right here. List our franchisees. Exhibit F. So you'd have to go to Exhibit F and you'd find all the franchisees and their phone numbers. Okay? So you can do your validation. Alrighty, so that's it. I hope this was useful. I'll try and do this once a week. And if you want help finding great franchises that are a great fit for you, right? They have to be financially, they have to be workable, but they also need to fit your skills. If you don't have the right skills for 1 hour, you won't make $400,000, much less $40 million. Okay, so I'm here to help you with that. I'm here to help you with the research process, really in-depth research, help you find funding, attorneys, CPAs, all that stuff. And then if you need anything after the franchise, I'm always here as well. I own several franchises myself, and maybe I could help with at least sympathizing, right? Because owning a business is hard, and even if you're in the best system, you're gonna have bad days. So yeah, I'll be here for all of that for you. Okay, feel free to reach out, tracerfranchising.com. You can book some time on my calendar, and we'll have a conversation around franchising. Alrighty, have a great day.